Bill Henshaw here again, Constitutional Coop Headquarters, more in the way of current events. And this one focuses on student loans, and I've talked about this in the past. Um, but now what we're hearing is that the moratorium, quote unquote, is going to expire early next year. And I'm here to tell you it doesn't really matter about that one way or the other with the issues I have and what we can present in front of a common law jury that you're never going to see. The student loan never existed. The agreement never existed. The lender has no corporate existence. You start asking questions like this, and this crap goes away in a hurry. And they're going to have no choice about it, given the rights that we have and can invoke. They just don't want you to know them. And that's what my job is, to teach you exactly what I've learned over the course of 5 decades and now 15 years all in. It's stunning. It is. I wish I would have learned this 50 years ago when I was in high school, but they weren't teaching it then either. And probably a lot further back, I'm not sure my dearly beloved mom got much in the way of this information in the 1930s, crying out loud. I've got my grandmother's hand-me-down textbooks from the late 19th century, which look a hell of a lot more like college textbooks would today, because they learned. And in that era, a lot of people, especially south of the Mason-Dixon line, poor white trash and other like that, you went to school for 6 years. That's it. Colleges, some people went to if they had the means and the money, but basically there weren't any grants. You didn't get into Starboard and bail if you didn't have any money. So 6 years is all you got. And often you had to go out. You had to go out after that. Even as a teenager, and work on the farm, as some of my relatives did when they were growing up. So that said, there's no way to know any of this. But it's great news for us, because if you know the issues, especially the money issue, quote unquote, that there isn't any, and they have no consideration on their side of the agreement whatsoever with the quote unquote student loan, and they didn't make a full disclosure of all the terms and agreements to you at the time you were fraudulently induced into it. These are affirmative defenses in a common law court, which should exist in a state admitted into this union as a common law state, which all of them were up until Minnesota in February of 1859. Where have those courts gone to? I have answers to questions like that. You're going to love it. By the way, for information about my modestly priced material, send me an email, uwinningcourt@gmail.com, and my constitutional defense document packets. And learning this stuff, and by the way, this works across the board, whether it's, like here, a student loan, a mortgage, a traffic ticket, IRS, franchise tax board, all they have a lot in common with all of these issues, and any one of them beats the bastards, because the existence of any one of them, especially in their corrupt courts, which are not judicial courts, what that says is that we're not only not in a judicial court, we're not in a state admitted into this union. That's Pandora's box if you've ever seen one. That's it, because how in the world did the states admitted into this union, like California in 1849, suddenly become at best federal insular territorial possessions? There's no way they can go there with that, because there's absolutely no way to explain it. And if it becomes public knowledge, and these issues are of such a magnitude that a trial, especially with the jury, is very likely to involve serious coverage by the mindless mainstream media, even now. That's how big a deal this is, how much leverage we have. It isn't just your case. It's every student loan and every mortgage from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon that's at risk here. If we get even one of our issues decided in our favor, and wouldn't you know, the 9 old farts in Washington, D.C. have the sworn duty to do exactly that, to say what the law is. Marbury v. Madison, 1804. The only problem with that being they haven't done it for about 150 odd years here, since the case of ex parte William H. McCardle, 7 Law 506, when Congress removed appellate jurisdiction in that case. And the Supreme Court was gutless enough in that era, I'm sorry to say, to not take action to fix that. And they could have. And if you're listening out there, especially John Roberts, I'd like to know why the bastards on the court at that time simply didn't convert that from the appellate jurisdiction to the original jurisdiction, which they had every right and power to do, and didn't do it, because if that happens, they announced the unconstitutionality of the Reconstruction Act of 1867 contemporaneously with that War Act of the 39th Congress. And at the same time, it has the same effect on the non-existent 14th War Amendment that was quote unquote ratified with a capital RAT the next year. Contemporaneously, the 14th Amendment has never existed. Civil rights don't exist. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton ain't. They weren't designed to do anything. Once in a while, they have to make it look good. That's the only time it happens. And as you can see with the spate of recent events over recent years, even when a law enforcement gets prosecuted for anything, sometimes it's not even voluntary manslaughter. It's just assault with a lethal weapon. And my goodness, if they don't beat the rap, maybe they get a couple of 3 years in jail, like Johannes Measurely did here in Oakland when he killed Oscar Grant, committing what looked to me a lot like second-degree murder, if not more than that. And this bastard is in jail for, I think, 18 months. He got sentenced, and he got released early for good behavior. This is what has to stop. We get rid of these law enforcement thugs out there and replace them with the peace officers that we had when I was growing up. God, I can't ever remember hearing of anything like this in that era. But then they were just starting to pass all these laws, especially this vehicle code BS. And a quickie about that while we're talking about it is that they can't prove, for example, that you're a person within the meaning of the vehicle code, let alone a driver required to have a license, legal definition of license, permission granted by competent authority to do an act that without such permission would be illegal, a trespass or a tort. So that's the definition. They can't prove that you're driving, because driving these days, is a commercial activity. And if that's true, it's interstate commerce. And if that's true, the 9 parts of rule, for example, that the Commerce Clause powers of Congress are closely associated with the Admiralty jurisdiction, known to the framers of the Constitution contemporaneously at the time as a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, and a jurisdiction which no state court can exercise. And that's true, vehicle code, family law, mortgages, student loans, you name it. They don't have at least subject matter jurisdiction. And as you will learn, they can't even make effective service of process on you, a major constitutional issue. You're going to love it. For information about this, send me an email, uwinnincourt@gmail.com. And I'll get you back information and tell you what I'm going to be teaching you how to do and learn, and hopefully learn quickly. There'll be some time and effort on your part, no two ways about that. But then at the same time, you can then teach your children and their children, your posterity, and tell them the truth before they even have a chance to get in trouble with these de facto dragoons and law enforcement thugs. I mean, all of this has to stop. The sooner the better. We get our nation and republic back. We can go from there. And no, it wasn't perfectly set up. There's no question about that. But it's the best nation ever established on the face of the earth in the entire history thereof. And we can go from there and make changes consistent with the Constitution, not in contravention of it. That's what has to stop. Nancy Pelosi, up Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, people there, and you don't even realize you have 0 qualified members in the House, 0 in the Senate. Where do you get the authority to pass any laws whatsoever? I'd love to hear it, especially in front of an inflamed jury that we're never going to see. Sorry, sometimes I go off on a tangent a little bit here and there, but that said, these student loans we can take care of and do it pretty quickly. I've got a packet I'm putting together especially for that purpose. Send me information, uwinnincourt@gmail.com. You're absolutely going to love it. And it gives us a real chance to not only take care of some business, but maybe make some serious changes in which the just us system does business here. That's what we need to get started in order to get our nation and republic back of defined and limited powers. Instead of, what do we have today? The much ballyhooed democracy. Eight, three wolves, two sheep voting on what's for dinner. And note, by the way, they have the same quote unquote democracy in Pyongyang, North Korea. And I'm sure Pelosi, Schumer, et al. Are envious of the 99% voter turnout they had at the last election there. Of course, what they don't tell you is over there, not voting is an act of treason. And they can probably take your ass out there, summarily in the courtyard, shoot you dead, and be done with it. No trial, no nothing. Not even a quote unquote fair trial like you're supposed to get here. So I'm just waiting, Nancy and Mitch and all. I mean, why don't you pass a law like that here and make it an act of treason not to vote? You damn well think you have the power to do it. Why don't you try it and see what happens? Love it. That's it. Remember to send me an email for information, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. Subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. As we're all working together across the board, Americans, Asians, and Africans with the same issues and none of this civil rights crap, we can get these bastards off our backs. Thank you.